Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. I will not ask you a rap question, Mark, but I will ask you, since I don't want to leave people hanging, what is your favorite type of music?
Probably, I mean, I love rock, just classic rock, but my favorite stuff really is 80s alternative stuff.
Really?
So, oh my gosh, The Cure, Elvis Costello. I mean, I get like New Order, Echo and the Bunnymen. On and on. All that genre of the Smiths, the Smithereens, the Morrissey after he left the Smiths. That's my go-to on my phone. All my downloaded music. It's called my Vandal music. So that takes you back to my University of Idaho days.
Now, when you were in the locker room, did you get to play that stuff when you were playing, or the guys shut that down?
No, sometimes. I mean, that was the kind of the era we were all in. So obviously we sometimes did it, but we always had different theme days, and the deal was always the senior vet in the weight room got to pick the music. And so we did, and then in the training room we used to have Country Fridays sometimes. So we do a little country music, which I like. I like that as well. So anyhow, but never was a big rap guy.
Got it. And that's
hard
fine
to believe is that a fish belly white kid growing up in Alaska, a rap guy.
Let's get to some football then, Stink, if we may. Out there in your neck of the woods, Sean Payton hired for the Broncos head coaching job. I'd imagine the reaction to that, the reception of that, has been overwhelmingly positive after what y'all went through up there.
No question. And, there were a lot of people that were like on the, hey, I want a D'Amico Ryans, I want a young coach. And I hate the term retread. Not that Sean Payton was fired. He never was. But I always thought retread just sounded so negative. So I started talking about wanting a certified pre-owned coach. Somebody who's done it before, somebody who knows how it's done. And I think that's what you got in this press conference yesterday. And then at one point, Sean Payton was asked, Russell has his own QB coach and da-da-da-da-da. And Sean just just shut it down, instantly shut it down. The things that people complained about here in Denver and complained about, honestly, in Seattle for all those years, he was asked if he was going to allow that. And Sean just said, hey, I'm not familiar with that, but that's not going to happen here. He's like, I don't know what you guys did in the past, but that ain't flying here. You're going to have our coaching staff, they're going to be on the field, and nobody else going to be and our players, and that's it. So I was really happy, that we seem to have hired an adult that understands what it takes to win.
Mark Schlereth is with us here on Cattles Ramie, Sactown Sports. Another hire happened today, Mark. Steve Wilks, new defensive coordinator in San Francisco. Dislike it, like it, or love it, and why?
I love it. I think he's a damn good coach. I think he gets his guys to play really hard for him. I think the turnaround that you saw, in Carolina was a direct reflection of him in that and what he wanted to do. And it was pretty significant. And the other thing, when you're talking about coaching for Kyle Shanahan, you're talking about we want to control line of scrimmage. We want to beat people up. And that's what the Carolina Panthers did in Steve's last 8-9 weeks that he was the interim head coach there, whatever it was. They just beat people down, and they won quite a few games. And I really thought that he was going to be retained as the head coach, but obviously he wasn't. And I think it's a great hire for the 49ers. I mean, they have such a good defense. So many good players, and they play a 4-3 front that Steve Wilks definitely will slide right into.
Let's look at obviously Super Bowl this Sunday, Mark, and I don't know where the betting line is today, but Vegas has this one very tight. Anyone who you listen to or watch or read previewing the game on Sunday have it as as tight and a matchup as even a matchup as we maybe have seen in years. Do you see any major mismatches on the field between those two teams this Sunday?
Honestly, I think that Philadelphia is just a better football team. And I can go position by position, but I think ultimately, when I look at lines of scrimmage, and I look at that a lot, Philly, there's nobody better than the Philadelphia Eagles when it comes to dominating a line of scrimmage, especially offensively. And the other thing I think that when you look at the history of Kansas City losing football games, it really comes down to line of scrimmage play. And the teams like Tennessee or some of the teams that have beaten Kansas City, one, they possess the ball. They get 32, 33, 37 minutes of possession. So really what you're trying to do is shrink the game. And what I mean by shrink the game, a normal game is about 12 possessions. Can we get it down to 8 possessions? That's all they have the ball with. And
right.
Then, can we wear them down? And the thing about Philly is they're so big and strong. They're like, I always say this, there's two types of teams. You're big and strong or you're fast and athletic. They're big, strong, fast, and athletic. So they'll like seriously, I think they'll dominate the line of scrimmage. And I'm one personally that has this like a 10-point game, Philly's
Wow.
direction.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot of people do think it's going to be tight. I see what you're saying about the Eagles, and can Steve Spagnuolo come up with a plan that can help that defensive front when you've got that just terrific Eagles offensive line? Let me ask you about this since we just handled the Super Bowl, Mark. The Raiders. If you were the Raiders, would you go all in and chase Aaron Rodgers now that Tom Brady is out of the equation?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously his connection with Devontae Adams is ridiculous. And you saw the effects of not having Devontae with Aaron, last year in Green Bay. They're just so good, especially in critical situations. And Devontae is one of those guys, if you talk to like Aaron or you talk to other people like Matt LaFleur, he's just one of those guys that sees the game like a quarterback, like Cooper Kupp. They just know defensive rotations. They know the coverage they're getting. They know the leverage the defense is supposed to use. And so they run routes the way a quarterback sees the route being run. And it just makes them basically undefensible, if you will. I don't even know if that's a word, but it sounds like a word, so I'm going to use it. Indefensible, whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not that bright, but they just have this unbelievable knack. And it's not just during a play. It'll be like, hey, Aaron, hey man, last time we were in third down and 4 to 6. When I was number 2 in a 3-by-1 formation, so I was the slot receiver, the middle receiver. They try to bracket me this way. So run the same play, and I'm going to take the same exact release, but I'm going to break it a different direction. And that was in the first quarter, and he'll say, next time we get that in the second quarter or third quarter in that situation, let's run that. And then, he'll break the huddle, and they'll get it, and he'll look over and go, okay, we got it again. And just has that level of attention to detail and understanding of the game that he can make those things happen.
Let me bring it full circle, Mark. And we started talking about Sean Payton and taking control back as he becomes the head coach of Denver. Does that whole situation and these quarterbacks on the trade market who are obviously highly sought after, like Aaron Rodgers is now, and all the clout that they come with, do you think the way that kind of blew up in Denver's face, do you think that scares teams off from going after that type of quarterback, or do they look at that as an isolated situation?
I think they probably look at it as more isolated. The other thing I think they look at is they look at the coaching situation, the lack of honestly, let's just call it what it is, the lack of control. And I think that the really good coaches and Sean Payton and guys like that will look at Russell Wilson and say, okay, the number one thing that we have to do beyond attacking weaknesses of the defense is we've got to put our players in a position to let them play to their strengths, and more importantly, we got to put our players in positions to mitigate their weaknesses. And I think that what happened in Denver was a coach that said, okay, Russ, what do you like? What do you want to do? Okay, we'll do it. And it was one of those situations where if you saw the last two games and you really studied it, once Nathaniel Hackett got fired, Jerry Rosberg basically took control of that organization, said, hey, by the way, you're not playing and you're not playing. And Russ, we're going to run the boot keep game and we're going to run all these other things. And you're going to basically do what you did all those years in Seattle. And all of a sudden that offense actually started producing a little bit, and they played Kansas City tight, and they ultimately beat San Diego, or LA Chargers. So I think those are the things we saw.
Mark, thanks for the time as always. We enjoy it. We'll catch up one more time, I think, next week. Until then, be well.
All right, sounds good, guys. Take care.
Thanks. There goes Mark Schlereth, NFL on Fox 104.3 The Fan in Denver. He was on the